Today we're going to talk about a topic that a whole lot of golfers don't like to talk about or even see. All right, that is shanking the golf ball. So we're going to take you through a complete course of all the different ways that I have seen people shank the ball. So when you have it come up, you can look back at this video and or maybe you're struggling with it right now, you can identify one of those possible ways. So I've seen it done many different ways. There's not one way to shank a ball. There's many ways to shank that golf ball out there. So this should help you, and it can even help your ball striking overall because I'll give you some tips that you can do to fix it right away. Right. So if you're brand new to this channel, make sure you subscribe, hit a little bell button, and then you'll see our future videos. And you can leave questions, comments, anything below. And thanks for watching. So starting off, we have to understand where we hit the ball when we shank it, because a lot of us get this a little misunderstood, right? Club face, this is a toe. You cannot shank it on a club face off the toe unless you hit it completely off the face altogether, which I have seen done before, but that is not considered a shank. That is just a really bad toe, and you're really far away from shanking it. All right, shank is when you hit it off the hosel. That's what makes it go directly right for right-handers or the opposite for left-handers. Sounds weird, feels funny, actually feels awful. Right, so that's when you hit it off the hosel of the golf club. You can heel it and still be okay, but as soon as it hits the hosel, the ball is going to go hard, a direction that you don't want it to. All right, so that is what a shank is, in case you didn't know. So one of the common ways to shank a golf ball just has to do with the club face itself. Right, it doesn't take a whole lot to make you shank it. All right, shank and slice, they're kind of combined. So if you know what a slice is, it's an open face. So if you just set up simply to a golf ball, right, and you have the face go open quite a bit, right, if it's wide open, I don't know, 25, 30 degrees, that heel is leading, all right, and so you can have center contact here, but as soon as you open up the face, the heel leads. And obviously, when the heel leads, right, if you don't catch it on the middle of the face, if you do, it's going to go hard right, just like a slice. But if you don't, you're going to hit off the hosel, you're going to shank it. You might actually, it's going to go low and right when you shank it this way because there's just not going to be a whole lot of speed or anything to help you out with it. Right? So the first way that you might be shanking is when you come down, your wrist might be cupping like that, and you might be coming into it, and you're leading with the heel and the hosel rather than coming down with a nice closed square face into the ball. The second cause of shanking the golf ball is you're swinging too in to out. All right, so this is going to be somebody who hits more of a big draw will struggle with this than somebody who slices the golf ball. If you slice the golf ball, you will tend to come down steep, so you're going to actually swing across the ball, so you'll tend to toe it. So this is for somebody who draws it or maybe plays a big swing and hook, right? Because they're coming down, and their club is stuck back here behind them, and they're swinging so far to the right that they're getting the heel or the hosel to move at the ball rather than coming down on path. So that's a very simple way. That's what probably the most common thing that I see from like more high-end golfers is they're going to be coming down, they get a little stuck, they want to hit that draw, so they come down here and they hit this big shank over to the right. That's a hard shank when you swing into out that way because your path is already going that way, and that's a really tough one to deal with. Okay, if you are stuck in that pattern right now, a really simple quick fix that you can do is you need to try to cut the golf ball. So instead of feeling like that right shoulder drops a lot and you're really trying to swing out, I want you to feel the opposite. When you get to the top, I want you to feel like your left shoulder stays lower. Okay, because you're still going to want to drop up, but if your left shoulder stays a little bit lower, it should take that club from being back here and get it a little bit more out back in front of your body so you can square it up. The third way to shank it is weight transfer. Okay, you just simply get closer to the golf ball. And this is a very common thing. A lot of golfers do this. Majority of golfers do this. If they shank it, they get to the top, they start to get to their toes, they stay on their toes, hips get closer to the ball, everything gets closer to the golf ball. So you shank it. Very simple. You're just everything's moving closer, so your arms don't have any room. So you got to be really good with your hands at the bottom, which makes it really hard to hit it good consistently. So you need to focus on when you get it to the top, get that weight into that right butt cheek back there. Keep it on that right butt cheek as long as you can. Don't make your first move to the toe, because then everything gets stuck and you get closer to it. You early extend, you shank it, you hit it poorly. Okay, so make that fix. Get it to that right heel. Try to keep it on the right heel. Feel like your butt stays back. Find that center of the face. Don't get closer to it. All right, number 4, how we can shank it. I had a player do this. I won't mention him by name, but we coined it. This was his personal shank. So, and this was a good high end. He's a college player now. If he watches this, he'll know who I'm talking about. All right, he would take it to the top. He would come down here. Everything would be going pretty good, and then it turned into a throw. And the club head would get outside the hands, and it would lead to his shanks, which were rough. That happened his first few weeks, his senior year in high school, and then he found a different way to shank it his first few weeks in college. So we don't want that to happen to any of you out there. So when you get it to the top, you got to make sure that you don't throw it with the right hand, because when you throw it with the right hand, not only does the right arm extend, which gets the ball everything closer to the golf ball. Right? If you have an extreme amount of lag, see a lot, you're going to tend to toe the ball more than ever actually shank it. Versus the opposite, if you're a person who casts it or throws it outside enough, that it makes the club and your arms longer, which get closer to the ball, so you'll tend to shank it. Okay, pretty simple. So we don't want that to happen. So you just need to be very patient with that right arm and extending. Just don't let it extend right away here. Feel like it just stays bent a little bit longer. If this is the way you are tending to toe it, you just need to make sure you keep that right arm bent. And it is okay if you feel like you don't swing as hard at it. It's okay if you start hitting it in the center of the face. Sometimes if you're struggling with shanking it and you toe it, you actually get a little excited. We don't want to have that shank because it is going to take your score and make it explode. All right, now we're going to talk about our last way to possibly shank. All right, the very final way to shank the golf ball is head motions, head movements. Okay, and I would say this is probably the least common because I don't see this very often. Is a player gets to the top and they're on their way down, the head actually drops, but also moves more over the top of the golf ball. So they're over covering it, and they get there, they can still actually hold that lag and stuff, but since they move their head more over it, they're going to tend to shank it. Okay, so that is a very simple way. So to fix it, you just feel the opposite. Feel like you stand nice and tall when you get it to the top, and when you swing down, just feel like everything stays up, which is what we don't want most golfers to do because they already do that, but this is for those who tend to actually drive and get over the top of it. They will feel when they do this that their weight kind of gets to their toes, but they're just really, they might be a little bit more athletic, who knows what's going on, but they stay over it, even though their weight's on their toes. Usually we go this way, and they just shank it. And we're talking, it doesn't take much for this to happen, right? From the center of the club to a shank, that's not much, which is the good news, which means you can fix it right away. All right, so those are the common ways. Other ways you might just shank it is you're just swinging way too hard at it, so just slow it down. But pay attention to your weight, kind of what your head's doing. It does help if you tape this so you can identify which of these 5 different shanks you might possibly have. If you have another way to shank it out there, you can write those down in the comments. I'd like to, maybe there's another possibility. I'm not quite sure. Now we're going to actually talk real quick just about chipping and what you can do to fix, you might call it the yips or the shanks really quickly. Now, if you're struggling with shanking when it comes to chipping or pitching, this is the way that I would have you fix it. First thing is, get rid of the open stance. All right, I think that's something that I don't teach anymore. I don't know why I was taught that. I think that's for people who can actually rotate. Most of us are decent at rotating. The reason I want you to get rid of the open stance is a lot of times, if our target's straight in front of us, we have an open stance, we tend to take it back and then shove it at the target. Because we know if we actually swing on the feet of our path, we'll tend to toe it, which might be better than the shank. All right, most of the time the club swings inside, we shove it, we shank it. All right, so very simply, first thing you need to do, all right, square up your feet with your target. Then from there, try to take the club back on the path of your feet, all right, and then just let it come back down the same way and let your body do it. Try not to get hands at it. Forget the fact that the target is in front of you and swing in your circle. That is the hardest thing, is because we always want to move the club at the target. Like if you struggle with putts that break away from you, that's exactly what you're doing. You're pushing the club head of the putter at the actual hole itself, which you got to forget about it if you want to make those putts. So we're going to do the same thing. Take it back, swing in our circle, and totally forget that the flag is right there. We know it's going to go there. You just have to come back with a square face, which should be fairly simple for the most of us. So that's a very simple way for you to fix if you're struggling with shanking, pitching, or chipping. So forget about opening up your stance, square everything up, forget about the target actually being there, and just swing in your circle. Try to get rid of the hands a little bit and just let your body be a little bit more natural. So you could also see when I finished, all right, everything was releasing. It wasn't stuck, stopped, anything like that. So quiet legs in the backswing, and then release it on the through swing so you can keep that circle going, get rid of those little yips.